everybody, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Melissa Reed and I'm a mixed media artist from Pennsylvania. So today I have a piece of craft paper spread out on my workspace and I've just pulled out some golden fluid acrylics there. I'm going to just get started with a real quick collage. Don't have a lot of time, and I thought what a great way to demonstrate how you don't need to have a ton of time to put into making some art. I'm using the craft paper instead of a canvas or a board today just to also demonstrate that you can just work on paper if that's what you have. And I don't even think this is craft paper. Actually, this is packing paper that I got in a package. So everybody's got some of that lying around, I would presume. So, it doesn't always have to be a canvas or a board or something substantial that you are planning on necessarily selling or doing something with. Sometimes just making art for the joy of making it is a wonderful thing to do as well. And I had this around and I thought, hey, I'm going to give it a try. So I've spread some different colors of paint down there. I have I've got Liquitex Titanium Buff, and I also have the Titanium Buff and Mars Black in the golden fluid acrylics there. And now I'm moving in with a little bit of collage. These are just old gel prints that I pulled out. I kind of went through and grabbed a stack of some black and whites and things that I thought maybe I might want to work with today, and I am just adhering those with some of my matte gel medium and an old gift card. Going in with a little bit of black acrylic paint, just making some marks there. This is layer one. If you've watched me work before, you know that I am an intuitive artist, so I don't really go into these pieces with any sort of plan, or at least not a whole lot of a plan, just kind of see what happens as we go. And with layer one, this is especially true because most of this will be covered up anyway, most likely. I don't know exactly because I don't know what it's going to look like at the end. But I really just want to get a bunch of different textures and values and patterns and things down there. Now, typically I would include colors in that too, but I wanted to keep this fairly muted in colors, using just the different tones of the white and the black and Payne's gray in there with this piece. I did go in with a little bit of Liquitex light pink. I really like that color in with these two, and I'm bringing that in just to add a tiny little bit of interest. I'm going over some of those areas that I already laid the collage down, because when you cover collage with paint, it makes it look a little more embedded, I guess is a good word, and not like it's just laying there right on top of the piece. I'm using my color shaper there to make some marks in the paint that I already have down and just kind of have fun with it. I used a skewer there, you can see in the bottom left, to scribble in and reveal some of the dark color underneath. And now I have a little bit of Bombay ink and a pen and nib that I'm just doing a little asemic writing on there, which is just basically abstract writing. It looks like writing, but it's not meant to be read, and it's not actually real words or any sort of particular language. I decided at this point to grab one of my stencils and some of my distress oxide sprays and see if I liked a pattern that happened there, but I really kind of don't. Two things happened there. One, I've got the acrylic paint down there, and those are just very, very watered down sprays, so it kind of just beat it up on the top of the plastic coating. But also, I didn't really like the way the pattern worked out. So what I did end up doing is just getting a little bit of Payne's Gray and one of my sponge daubers there and going over that just to lay down some of the paint on the stencil there. Again, just trying to gather a bunch of different textures and patterns there to make that layer interesting. Now we're going to do a little image transfer. I went and had some laser prints done at my local Office Max, and I'm just going to do a real quick gel print of this bird that's on a branch. So when you're doing an image transfer, either from a magazine or from a laser print, very, very important to use a very light layer of paint, and don't leave the image on the plate for very long at all. I think that was a total of maybe 10-15 seconds that I rubbed it. All you're trying to do is get that paint that is not being resisted by the toner in the print to lay down. So you don't want to leave it on there too long, or it will just end up picking up all of the paint and you're going to have a blank space there on your gel plate. I'm going in now just with a wet shop towel to clean up some of what I call the background noise, which is just a little bit of that unwanted paint that came through. And now I'm taking a fine brush, and there are just a couple spots on there that I thought could use a little bit of work on that bird. I couldn't really see the beak. I could kind of see it, but I knew that when I transferred it, it wasn't going to come up. So I'm using a very small brush and just kind of tapping it onto the piece, because you can see that that's not a solid black image, and I don't want to go in and just start painting over it because it's going to be very obvious where I did that, and I'm just trying to blend it and make it look a little bit more natural and just kind of help some of the areas that didn't lay down. And if you see there, I think I did a pretty decent job of that. Just going in, cleaning off the brush every once in a while. I'm also trying to add a little bit of shading to it, not a ton, but just in a couple of places to make it less flat looking. So once I let that dry, I'm going in with my matte gel medium and rolling that over the top, and I'm going to be picking this up with a piece of tissue paper here. This is just regular old garden variety tissue, not the wet strength. And I'm going to smooth that on there, let it dry, which I did off camera. Took me, I don't know, maybe like a minute with a hairdryer, and I'm lifting that carefully up, and we've got our print. It turned out pretty good. There's still a little bit of that background noise in the background, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to be tearing most of that off anyway. So I decided I'm going to put that bird on there, but it definitely is going to need something else in addition. And I remembered that I had those flowers that I printed on the transparent paper. So these are just some of my regular flower prints that I do. I'll put a link to those at the end screen as well. But then I got out those. I don't know if you remember the transparent paper video that I did. This was, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago. I'll link that one as well for you. They turned out pretty cool, and I just kind of had them sitting around. So I thought, this is what I'm going to do with those. And I'm going to go ahead and add them to this collage. So that one in my hands there is one of the transparent paper ones. That is just a flower that I printed on regular tissue paper. And I liked it, but I ended up using the other one that's in my left hand there, which was another one of the transparent paper ones. Ultimately, I ended up using both of those in this collage because I think they worked out pretty nicely. As I say all the time, one of the great things about collage is you get to try everything out before you commit by gluing it down. So once paint is down on the paper, it is down, and your option is to either paint over it or roll with what you've got there. But collage is great because you can set things down and move them around and really decide where you want to put things and what you would like where before you start doing any gluing. So you'll see me through this process, moving the flowers around and moving the bird around and just trying to get my placement where I want it. And once I have that ready to go, I decide to go ahead and glue those down. And I'm going to be using a little more of my matte gel medium. That is always what I like to use for my collage work. I'm laying down a hefty layer of that on the bottom. Then I lay down the piece that I want to glue down. Then I lay another hefty layer on top and then scrape off any excess. And the scraping serves two purposes. One, it gets rid of just the excess that's too much laying on there. You don't want big globs of it, but it also smooths everything down underneath, and you'll have a much more finished look because everything becomes part of that bottom sheet. So now I'm going to think about placement of the bird, but I do decide to go ahead and let this top layer dry first. And so when I come back to it, I'm going to begin by cutting large portions of the excess paper off, and then I will go in by hand and tear a little bit off, especially up around the delicate areas where I can really keep my thumb over the parts that I don't want to be ripped off, like the beak you'll see here in a moment. And just getting some of that extra off of there without having such hard edges, it just makes it look a little bit more natural. Now, I'm not worried about removing every single tiny little extra piece of this tissue paper because it is going to just blend into the background. And once you put the matte medium on it, it becomes almost completely invisible. But I did want to get like some of it off of there because it will slightly obscure some of the background pattern, and I did not want that for this particular piece. So now that I've got that down, I'm laying down some more of my matte medium. If you have a long, skinny piece that you're collaging, I recommend doing it the way that I am here, which is just start with one little, maybe inch or two segment laying that down and then working your way up. It's a lot easier than spreading out all of the glue and then trying to wrangle a very thin, flimsy piece of paper that's going to want to just naturally fall where you don't want it, of course. So this way you can keep yourself from having a mistake like that you don't want to have. Okay, so this is what we ended up with after everything dried, and I just went ahead and trimmed off these pieces around the outside. So what do we have here? Do I love it? No. Do I like components of it? Yes. So this is where you can use some creative framing or matting to try to pull different pieces of your work out that you do enjoy, so that you're not just looking at this and going, you know, I don't really like it, so I feel like it was wasted time. It's never wasted time. Even if you end up with a piece at the very end that you just don't like and you're probably never going to look at again, you did learn something from it. But here's a thing that you can do, and I showed you this in another video. I believe it was titled Finding Beauty in Your Work or something to that effect. I will link it on my end screen for you if you're interested. Just take some different mat boards if you have them hanging around, or frames, or you can do what I did here, which was just cut a piece of paper and actually just glue it together and work on finding a spot that you do like. So that's what I did, which is why I then cut this particular size. I really like the bird. I wanted that to be a focal point, and I really liked the flower. I wanted to keep that too. I didn't care that much about everything else going on. But suddenly, when I put that inside the frame like that, it becomes a piece that I look at and I think, okay, that could be a finished piece that I could live with. So what I'm going to do is just trim it down. Am I going to lose some of the flower? Yeah, but I don't really care that much. I could actually keep this whole entire piece and use it in another collage. I mean, after all, it is just on paper. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and cut that down, and I will be right back with you to show you what I'm going to end up with at the end. Okay, excuse the shaky camera work. I'm just holding my phone here, but this is what I ended up with at the end. And I'll tell you what, it's not really too shabby, I don't think. I didn't really set out on this endeavor to necessarily make a finished piece. I was really just kind of looking to see if I could quickly do a collage. I had a little bit of time, but not a lot of time. So I thought, I'll bet a lot of you are in that same position sometimes where you want to make art, but maybe you only have 15 or 20 minutes. So what can you do? You can go through some papers that you already have, or maybe very quickly pull a print and kind of just put it together as quickly as you can or have time for, and then look and see what you have and pull something out of it that you may really like. You can surprise yourself doing this. So that's what I've done here for you today. Now, while I'm here, I also want to mention real quick, for my next few videos, I'm going to be doing a mini series just on image transfer. I've had a lot of questions on that, so I'm going to be doing some different things involving that, some different ways to do image transfer, and just some projects involving that. So if you're interested, I hope you will stick with me for the next few weeks and join me in those videos. If you do want to be reminded of those, the best way to do that is to hit the bell notification on your YouTube settings there, so that you will be alerted when I put a new video out, which is every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And also subscribe to the channel, and hopefully YouTube will, let you see my videos, although YouTube does what it wants to. So, who knows what's going to happen there. The best way to do it is to just click the bell notification button. Also, if you liked what I did today, give me a thumbs up, and I look forward to working with you all again. Have a great week.